right, welcome to the webinar, The Changing Landscape of Cybersecurity. I'm Rafe Martin, your host. Glad to be here. Today, we're going to talk about just how cybersecurity and cybercrime continues to evolve and the type of things that we need to be aware of and just understand how cybercrime is affecting all of us. And this will not be another cybersecurity training where it's, hey, make sure you don't use the same password everywhere and make sure you know how to identify a phishing email and those types of topics. So hopefully today, this will open your mind to just what we're dealing with in the world of cybercrime and cybersecurity. All right, what we're going to cover today, cybercrime strategy, what the criminals are doing and how that's changing and how we are taking steps to protect ourselves. Of course, phishing and other tactics, we're going to take a look at how those are changing. And then AI's role in cybercrime and cybersecurity. Zero trust as the new normal, which is a cybersecurity framework. Talk a little bit about cloud security. A lot of people are in the cloud. Cyber resilience might be a new topic for you. We're going to talk about what that is exactly. And then cyber insurance, things you need to be on the lookout for and how you can use cyber insurance as a tool to help you be protected. All right, so when we think of hackers, this image comes to mind. This is the image we've seen for years. It's the guy in the hoodie in the dark room doing his craft, trying to hack into your business and cause disruptions. So the reality is it probably looks more like this, because cybercrime is organized crime. So it's a network of people. It's a business. It's run like a business. So you've got, the boss, and then you've got a hierarchy of management, if you will. So some facts, just some stats here about how it is turning in or has turned into a huge business. The average ransomware payout last year was $1.5 million. 4.35 million was the global average cost of a data breach. That meaning if you had to pay a ransom, the cost to remediate, clean it all up, pay for fines, damages, lawyers, wrap all that together. And it's, almost $4.5 million average. And then if you take all those $4.5 million numbers and put them together, ransomware or cybercrime, I should say, this year's projected to be a $9.5 trillion business. And by 2028, up to almost $14 trillion. So it's a huge economy. And again, it is mostly now run by organized crime rings. So the fact that it is a business model, I wanted to share this with you because this is kind of their business plan. So there's something called the cyber kill chain. Maybe a new term for a lot of people, but this is the framework or the plan for how cybercrime is carried out. So I'll go through it with you. Reconnaissance phase, for example, this is when attackers are looking for, they're picking out their targets, for example. So they're online trying to find out as much as they can about the person that they're targeting. They can get that through your social media profiles, your, things like your LinkedIn posts. They can get on LinkedIn and see who maybe reports to you and your company, as an example. Things you post, you're putting all your kids' birthday pictures and stuff like that online. They're just looking for any kind of way to construct an attack against you by sounding like there's something, someone familiar to you or they're familiar with you personally. And then they move into this weaponization stage. And this is where they construct this weapon. Like, what am I going to do? Well, maybe they're going to construct a phishing email that's got something very personal in it that would get your attention because they saw that on one of your social media feeds. And then the delivery phase is next. And that's when they hit the send button on their email or another way to get in, maybe through some other hacking attempt. And then we move to the exploit. This is when you as the victim click the email because, hey, this sounded like someone I know, or this looked legitimate. So from there, once you've clicked, that's when the installation happens. This is when they install their malware onto your computers and get into your network. And from there, they move into this command and control phase. So now they've gotten inside, they've planted some software that becomes their eyes and ears. On average, they watch you for up to 6 months. So they're figuring out who's who can write checks, who can send payments, who can approve transactions and things like that. They're developing a plan during this command and control phase on how to maximize their attack on you. And then finally, the actions phase is where they carry out whatever they're going to do. Could be ransomware. It could be just stealing your data. Maybe they want to get in and steal credit card data, or just PII, which is personally identifiable information. Or if you're in healthcare, it's EPHI, which is protected health information. So whatever they're going to do, they've figured it out during that command and control phase, and then finally the action phase. So this is kind of a roadmap. And then we move into something called the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And these are more of the tactics. So this is things they're doing once they're in there and they're starting to navigate and move inside your network. So they're going to try things like privilege escalation, defense evasion, which is avoiding detection. Let me back up. Privilege escalation, meaning, hey, if I can steal access as an administrator, that account, I can get to more things based on what privileges I have. And then, sorry, jumping over to credential access, same sort of thing. Like I'm looking to steal as many usernames and passwords as I can, because some of those are going to be global administrators, as an example, and have the keys to the whole kingdom. And then the discovery is figuring out just what's in the environment. And lateral movement. So lateral movement is like moving around inside your network, figuring out where things are. But so laterally means I'm not really escalating at a higher level. So if I'll pick on Hunter. If I stole Hunter's credentials, I'd have access to everything Hunter could see, right? And then if I could steal credentials for an administrator, that would elevate me to get to more resources. And then you move into exfiltration. So this is stealing your data. Again, customer data, employee data, HR records, things that may have PII, social security numbers, birth dates, all that. They're figuring out what they're going to do with this data. And then the impact again, which could be ransomware. It could just be stealing stuff and then going away with it. So introduce you to a new type of threat, and this is called an advanced persistent threat, also known as an APT. And if you look at the picture here, there's a sniper. It's not just a bunch of ivy, but there's a sniper there by the tree. So what is an advanced persistent threat? It's kind of in the name. It's just a very advanced, high-tech way to get in and basically spy on you. So how do they do this? They start with those same type of social engineering techniques. Social engineering, again, is using a human to pull off the attack. So it could be learning about you through a phone call, learning about you online, sending a fake UPS shipping email, all the phishing emails, for example, to execs. So if you see, maybe you have a day where, gosh, there's a lot of people today that are getting phishing emails. That's often a sign that you're under attack. So they're just trying to get in through someone, right? And then, so signs of compromise there, meaning all these things leave clues. So that's stage one. Stage two is, again, this sounds a lot like the kill chain, but they're going to insert their malware because they got you to click. And then again, they're going to move around internally. And then they're establish this backdoor type of environment where they can move around and not be detected, and it kind of gives them a tool to use as their way to access your network. And then moving into stage three. So in this example, let's just say it's not a ransomware attack. They're just here to steal data. Maybe they want all the credit card numbers. So they start to collect this information around your network, and they store it in a safe place that they've established on the network. And then when they've realized, okay, we've got enough, let's grab this stuff and run, because everything that happens in the network leaves a clue, right? So this is why monitoring is so important. But when it's time to take the data and run, they'll often distract you with another like obvious incident. So that may be a denial of service attack, or just a flurry of phishing emails or whatever, because they're trying to distract your IT people or the people that are monitoring, because it's kind of like, hey, what's look at this hand, but what's this hand over here doing? So they're going to set up this distraction while they're exfiltrating your data, which is the last step there. And so in this case, they're just in, steal data, and they're out. So those are APT. So how do you protect yourself against these type of things? It's all about the tools, having the right tools. So there's something called IOCs, which are indicators of compromise. Again, everything that happens internally leaves a clue, because it's all logged. And that's where this next one, the SIM, comes in. That's a security information and event management system. And I'll show you what that looks like here later. But it's using AI to monitor these logs to look for these threats. And that's where proactive threat hunting comes in as well. Again, we're looking for clues, but if you don't have the right tools in place, you're never going to see this stuff. Which, by the way, if we're protecting you, we have those tools in place through our Cyber Armor bundle. All right, let's talk about ransomware. And this is just super scary, because we're talking about how this is a business now, it's organized crime. I want to show you this new idea about ransomware, and it's called ransomware as a service, so RAAS. This is how it's done now. So follow me here through this diagram. We'll start in the middle with the crime operation. So this is the crime boss, right? And they employ the programmers and the money people and the accounting people and the people that are going to get on the phone and negotiate. So it's an operation, just like a business. And in some countries, they fill up a hotel full of these people every day that go in and punch a clock. So you've got the crime operation in the middle. And if you follow that green start arrow, you've got affiliates. So these are freelancers. These are guys that have said, hey, I'll work for you kind of on a subcontractor basis. So they get the attack tools as the affiliate, and they're going to do the same kind of things we talked about already. They're going to figure out who they want to target. And sometimes it's a matter of they just go to the dark web and they buy 1 million email addresses and they just send out a phishing email and they're waiting for someone to click. But if they want to do more of what's called a spear phishing attack, where they're like, hey, definitely want to target some CFOs, for example. They're doing their research online, putting a list together, putting a convincing email together. And so if you're following along on the top left, this is your affiliate, and he's done all this, and he's going to launch the phishing attacks. Those emails are going to go to the victim, and he just needs 1 or 2 to click. So if you follow along, top right, some victim clicked the email link, and as a result, malware got installed. So if you follow that arrow, at this point, the crime operation takes over. So now they're in hacking the network, installing their ransomware tool that's kind of in prep to be launched once they're ready. So again, they're looking around, they're exfiltrating data. If you think of the Change Healthcare event, I know everyone's tired of hearing about it, but this is what happened with Change Healthcare. They exfiltrated data and sold it to someone else. More on that later. Then when they're ready, they've encrypted your data, they've found your backups, they've encrypted those. This is the point where they're going to lock you out of your computer and activate the ransomware. So you'll see the UR here, map point there. This is usually the first time anybody at the business even knows anything has happened. So all these other steps have happened prior to that. And this is where the victim finally realizes, oh my gosh, we've been attacked. So next step is they put the message on your screen. It says you've been locked out. And this is what I call like the valley of despair, because usually sometimes it's a 3-day wait. You're just sitting there locked up. You can't use the computer. You can't get to the data. You realize your backups are infected. And these people at the crime operation haven't even told you how much money they want or anything. They haven't contacted you yet. They're letting the reality sink in that we've got you. And then finally, day 3 or so, they pop up on screen and say, hey, we got you. Here's how much money we want. Most people pay the ransom. That's paid. And if you follow the lines there, the money gets paid to the crime operation. The crime operation sends that affiliate his commission on that. So they're sharing in that score, that revenue. And then the affiliate goes off to do the next one. It's a business model. So anyway, that's what we're dealing with now. It's called RAS, or ransomware as a service. Let's talk about phishing, because in all the examples so far, I've mentioned phishing has been the catalyst or the key to pulling off the attacks. 91% of all cyber attacks start with a phishing email, or that's their way in. And on average, 1 in 5 employees clicks on phishing emails, so almost 20%. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel for these guys. AI is all the rage. I mean, we hear about it every day. So unfortunately, AI and generative AI it's in the hands of the cyber criminals as well. So some things they're doing with AI, they're new tools of the trade. So you take social engineering, for example. It's phishing. So you think of the lure, a phishing lure, the lure documents. This is what gets people to take action. You can use, or the thugs are using AI now to create perfectly formed emails without the mistakes. It used to be the giveaway was it was poorly formed. It didn't look like they even spoke English, or bad grammar, bad spelling, all that. Well, now they're beautiful, perfectly formed emails because they're using AI tools like ChatGPT, for example. So no mistakes in there. And also AI is helping them to be a lot more efficient, especially in like doing their research or the recon phase. They can turn AI loose on social media and have it go out and find all they need to construct a convincing email, phishing email. And then AI is also used in malware development. So it can be trained on security data to get in and evade detection. So these tools are in the hands of the bad guys. What scares me most, deep fakes. If you tune in to maybe some of our previous webinars, you've heard me show some deep fake examples, but deep fakes are using AI to impersonate an actual person. It started out, it was photographs, and then it moved into video, deep fake videos. Excuse me. There's a famous Tom Cruise one on YouTube where it's a video and I mean, it looks and sounds and acts just like Tom Cruise, but it's not. It's a guy using AI. I put this together. It's a picture of Trump on a mountain bike. There was an event recently, earlier this year, and this is what's super scary. They used the deepfake technology to conduct a live Zoom meeting. It was a company in Hong Kong. So the hacker impersonated the CFO, called together a Zoom meeting of his direct reports. I mean, these are people that work with this guy every day. They could not tell on the Zoom meeting that it was not their boss. I mean, because it looked like him, sounded like him. And he ordered some transactions to take place, and this hacker left the meeting $25 million richer. So that's kind of a landmark event, because deepfake prior to that had not been something that you could do live. Scary stuff. Well, the good news is the good guys, we have AI tools as well. And that is what we have to use to combat these cyber criminals now, because they're so advanced in the tools that they're using. So you heard me talk about SIM earlier, and it's basically logging information. So this is just a snippet of a log file. And when we say a log file, every event that happens on the network is logged into these type of files where there are thousands upon thousands of lines in these logs. It's impossible for a human to look at these. So we use AI tools to analyze these log files and look for any kind of anomalies. So AI-powered threat detection is what we're talking about here, using those type of resources like log files and other clues. But AI is helping us identify vulnerabilities, detect patterns, anomalies, analyze data. So you can analyze log files and see, oh, here's something out of the ordinary. Patterns is what we're talking about. So recognizing patterns. And it just improves our capabilities as the protectors. And one of the features of AI is adaptive learning. So it kind of can learn on the fly as well. It helps with things like response. Some tools can respond automatically, like shutting something down that it detected as potentially dangerous. And then the whole idea here is just minimize the impact to a business if they did come under attack. We want it to be short and minimal and recover quickly. So how do you protect yourself? The answer, zero trust. This, like, if you want to know what's the most I can be doing within reason right now to protect myself, zero trust is a framework. I call it the new normal. It should be the way everyone's protecting themselves these days. So zero trust is a framework for cybersecurity. It follows this approach called never trust, always verify. So let me compare it to the old way. The traditional approach was less trusting. It focused mostly on perimeter defenses. So when I say perimeter defenses, let's just say you pull up to a military base, right? Military base has a fence around it and a guard gate. Well, that's your perimeter, and the guys at the gate with the guns, that's part of your perimeter defenses. So they're just checking people at the gate to see if they should be trusted and let in. Zero trust assumes that the bad guys are already in. So any kind of movement inside the base still has to be verified. So for example, let's say you made it by the guards at the gate. That doesn't mean they're going to let you drive the tank, right? So there'd be additional clearance before they're going to let you drive the tank. And that's kind of how zero trust works. Everything's guilty until proven innocent. And we follow this principle of least privilege access, meaning, again, you don't want your, let's say at your organization, you've got a sales team, right? You don't necessarily want your sales team having access to HR payroll info, for example. So you limit users' access to only the things they need to get to do their job. So that's least privilege access, and that's just an overview of zero trust. It does follow this framework of the pillars. So the 5 pillars of zero trust. And what this means is, if you look at each of these, this is where we're constantly verifying these items. So we're constantly verifying the user's identity, the device that they are using. So it could be their laptop, computer, smartphone, whatever, however they're accessing the network. And then the network itself. So permissions, least privilege access, again, those type of things. And then the applications that you're using, so the programs you're using, are verified. And one of the components of that is something called application control. So in our example, our Cyber Armor tool does not allow any pre-approved program to run. So it's this guilty until proven innocent approach. And why that's important is you can go to a malicious website or click a bad link, a malware link, and those are all programs. They're executable files. And by having locked down everything and saying nothing can run until we approve it, that really cripples the hackers as they attempt to run and install things on your network. And then lastly, the data. So we're always always verifying data, making sure the only people that need to get to it can see it, making sure it's stored offsite, encrypted, and all those type of things. So when you're looking for an IT partner, and I know we have a lot of clients on, we use Cyber Armor to protect our clients, but if you're not and you're just wanting to know, well, how do I get into a zero trust model, you want to look for a provider that offers a zero trust bundle, and they really need to be using the term zero trust. Here's some components of ours. The SOC, which is the middle top one there. So that's the Security Operations Center. And then if you look down lower left, the SIM, I talked about the advanced logging. Those two work together. So something is detected, there's a human 24/7 that can respond to these events. I kind of compare it to like having CPI security in your house, for example, and you're away and the door sensor triggers, they're coming on the speaker going, hey, identify yourself. This is kind of how the SOC and the SIM work together. Application controls, I just mentioned, ransomware detection and isolation. So if ransomware could get through all the other things we're doing and does launch, there's a tool in place to confine it to that one computer. So we're remediating or cleaning up one computer and not 100, right? So employee training is a big one. So as you saw in one of those earlier statistics, 1 in 5 people are going to click that phishing email, and that whole social engineering thing. And this is just where awareness comes in and training. So cybersecurity training is very important. It's also something that insurance companies are looking for, that you've got to prove you're doing. And I'll show you more on insurance here coming up. So some things we can do. Staff training, I just mentioned. Get on a program that has a weekly training would be fantastic. Again, if you're a client, you're already getting that. Enabling multi-factor authentication, also known as MFA. This is just when you're using another device to verify your identity, aside from the device that you're trying to log in on. So if I'm on my laptop, I try to log in, it wants to send a code to my phone or a text to my phone or even a code to my email. That's MFA. I would just say anywhere that offers MFA, you should definitely take advantage of it and use it. Least privilege access, again, it's the third time I've mentioned it, but you want to do an assessment of your network, and let's just be sure that it's not the Wild West. Like, people just can't get to things. I've been in prospective clients' environments, and they just have a share drive, they'll call it, and everything the company's dumped into this one location. And if you're the least bit technically inclined, you can get in there and just snoop around at everything. It's just a bad idea. So make sure you've got things segmented, and it is role-based. So if you're using role-based approach, then people are only getting to the things they need to do their job. And that's, again, that's important, because if a hacker were to get in and he stole a lower level account, if you will, and there are no controls in place, then he can see everything. You want to have regular security assessments. Pen test or penetration test is something you probably heard of that comes to mind. It's recommended you do those every 6 months. All right, let's move into the cloud discussion, because I know a lot of people may be sitting there going, well, our data's in the cloud, so I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. And we use a hosted application, or maybe our servers in the cloud. So there's a tendency to feel like I don't have to be concerned with a lot of these things. I want to introduce this idea too. It's called the CIA triad. And no, we're not CIA agents, but I thought it made for a good picture. When we are talking about managing your data, whether it's you've got a server in the office, you're in the cloud, whatever, if you're using data and using a network, this applies. And the CIA triad stands for confidentiality, meaning you want to make sure your data is safe and confidential. So that whole least privilege access thing plays into that again. I is for integrity. So you need to be able to be sure you can trust that the data you're using is accurate. That's what integrity means. And then available. I need to be able to get to my data. So does that mean I need a redundant internet connection? Does that mean I need to be sure I've got multiple backups going on? I need, if it's not available, it's of no good to you. So just a quick, interjection there. But back to the cloud discussion. What do you need to do? You need to select a secure cloud provider. So there's a few different flavors of cloud usage here. There's something called infrastructure as a service, and the one below that is platform as a service. And this is more about moving your environment into the cloud. A lot of times this is something that maybe an enterprise level organization would do more of, not so much a small business typically. But if you move down to this third one, software as a service, it's definitely what we see a lot of small businesses. And this is when you take your main line of business application. I used QuickBooks as an example. It could be anything. It's the software that you use that manages your day-to-day operations, and it's in the cloud, right? That's software as a service. Again, that's the most common we see here. So regardless of which of those you're using, what do you need to do? Conduct regular security audits. Well, you say, well, gosh, I've got, let's just say you're in healthcare. Well, I've got my EMRs hosted by Epic or whoever. Are they conducting security audits? I would assume they are, but are they letting you know that? Incident response plan. Let's just say you go down. Do they have a plan in place? Are they in communication with you? We'll talk more about incident response plan here in a few slides further. And reviewing logs and alerts. You're assuming these people that you're paying every month are doing these things, but I would want some kind of acknowledgement or verification of that. One of the most important points in this presentation: moving to the cloud does not mean you just offloaded all of your cybersecurity responsibilities. Hopefully, I'm making that point as we go along. What that means, yeah, all my customer data is in the cloud, but you still need to install endpoint protection, for example, endpoint being the computer you use to get into that cloud app. Imagine if a hacker installed a keylogger on your workstation and they see every keystroke you type, and they created that way in, that backdoor stealthy kind of access, and then they get in and they go, well, I can log into your cloud app because I've got everybody's username and password. They could still get in and exfiltrate data, or at least see data. Just so you want to protect the computers that you're using, even to get to your cloud things. You want to have a firewall in your environment, in your office. You want to make sure you patch and update those workstations, because a lot of these updates and patches are security patches, and that means that an exploit has been identified that a hacker could use as a workaround to get into your computer, and then the patch and the update solves that. So it's important to keep those updated. All right, so that's cloud security. Again, don't feel like you're off the hook for protecting everything just because you're in the cloud. And if there is an event, data gets stolen, it's going to be you and your cloud provider in court. Cyber resilience. Maybe never heard this term before, but I wanted to include this briefly. I'll just say we've got a webinar coming up later this year, so just stay tuned. The whole hour is going to be about cyber resilience. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm just going to show you a little bit of it. But cyber resilience is the ability for you to plan for and survive a cyber attack. So there's some stages here. We start up at anticipate, for example. It's a cyclical, circular type of thing. So anticipating a cyber attack, meaning, what would we do? So in that identify stage and the anticipate stage, you're doing things like a risk analysis. You've identified the most critical assets on the network. Probably your data is number one. You conduct something called like a business impact analysis, which explores more about how an outage or an attack could impact the business. And there's a lot to unpack there. So You go into the protect phase from there, and that's protecting your devices and your networking assets. So that's the tools, putting the tools in place to protect and then monitor. And then detect, meaning, hey, it looks like there's a hacker in here. What do we do? And then we respond. That's the next phase. And then recovery. So to break that down a little more, cyber resilience is broken into these two parts. There's the phase one, there's the technology part. So again, it's the prepare, protect, detect phases. And then you've got phase two, which this is your people and processes phase. So responding and recovering. When do you think was the best time for these people to purchase fire insurance? Yesterday, right? So when you have an attack, so there's an incident, you should really have an incident response plan. And this is all about, oh my gosh, we've been attacked. Who's got the ball? So it's kind of like your quarterback in the case of a cyber attack or cyber event. And I'll just say an incident is just that. Something has happened. We're not sure how devastating it is or if it's even a concern or not. So this is a part of, exploring, hey, what just happened to us? So some of the components of an incident response plan, it's a predefined action plan. So you already know who does what. Again, the quarterback analogy, who's got the ball in the event of some incident, starting with, how's it even reported and who does it get reported to? So you've got this predefined action plan here. And then there's a clear map of your applications, your data, your endpoints, meaning computers and other assets, so that you can establish recovery priorities if in fact you're going to have to move into a recovery phase, meaning, hey, what's the most important application we need here in the business? We've got to just, recover that first, and then what is secondary to that, and so forth. Business continuity, which I'll talk about here in just a second. Make sure the business keeps running while you're dealing with all this. Who gets notified, and then has this whole process been tested? So we're diving into little slices here. So I'm taking you just into the response part of cyber resiliency, and then within there, I'm just going to hop into business continuity. Again, there's a lot to this, but business continuity. Let's say that suppose you got a call from your cloud provider, and they said, "Hey, we've had some catastrophic event. We're going to be down for 21 days." Which is, by the way, the average downtime for a ransomware attack is 21 days. So if you knew in advance, we're going to have a 21-day period of no computer use, how would you conduct business? Do people know what to do? Are you digging up the paper forms out of the back closet? Do you even know where they are? Do you have enough to survive a 21-day attack? These are all types of business continuity questions and should be part of a overall cyber resilience plan. Well, let's say you get attacked and you're not, you don't get the luxury of a prediction up front to say, oh yeah, it's going to be 21 days. It could be 2 hours. It could be a day. It could be a week, month, whatever. So if you are attacked and hey, all of our data has just been wiped out, you should have an idea of kind of worst case, like how long before we are restored. So let me introduce these two or three terms here. RTC, which is recovery time capability. So this means, hey, if we just had to wipe everything and start from scratch, how long would it take us to get everything back up? And then the RPC is recovery point capability. And that means, well, if we do get everything back up, to what point does that restore us? So if we're doing hourly backups, for example, we would know, hey, we can go to that last hour before the attack occurred. That should be our recovery point capability. And then you can turn those into objectives. So you may see RTO or RPO. But my thought is you can't have an objective if you don't know what your capability is first, right? Because they could be totally out of alignment with each other. So I think first you want to know what your capabilities are. how quick can we get restored, and to what point are we restored? That's important. I mean, if the RTC is 4 days, you go back to your business continuity plan and go, hey, we're going to have to do something for 4 days to keep business going as usual. So these are all the type of issues and topics that a chief information officer would be responsible for in a company. And one of the things we offer here is VCIO, which is virtual chief information officer, or you can think of it as fractional CIO. So those type of services are available. It's a little bit out of the scope of just normal care and feeding and maintenance and monitoring, but it's super important. Moving a little further into this incident response, I think it's more important to note that a cyber attack is not just an IT problem. I think a lot of people think of that like, oh, it's IT, and we're just waiting for them to tell us what to do. And hopefully I've made the point that, no, you need to have a plan that does involve IT, but it's not just sitting on your hands waiting on IT to do their thing. So one of the things you might need to deal with an attack would be media relations. Let's say you've discovered that, oh my gosh, we just lost 3,000 client records. Well, someone has to communicate that to them, and it has to be done at the right time. It can't be done under panic. So who do you want as your face of the company out there communicating this to the news and the world and your clients and employees? Do you want the clown? Probably not. And I think the default is, oh, we'll get the CEO to do it, because a lot of times that might not be the best person to put out there. It needs to be someone that is trained in media communications. You're going to be having legal conversations. You're going to have internal conversations. So you need to determine who their spokesperson would be as a just in case type of model. So this person would already be determined. They're already trained. You've had discussions with leadership, like here's what we do in these events. Here's what we say. We want to be sure we're not creating a panic before we have all the information. They need to be knowledgeable about the situation. So we've talked about a lot of things here involving risk to your business, risk to your reputation, risk to business continuing. And one of the ways to offload some of that risk is using cyber insurance. However, cyber insurance has gotten to be a bear. It's become more difficult to apply for, and the premiums have tripled in some cases over the last couple of years. So it can be, insurance is designed to kind of put you back to where you were, or maybe share in some of that burden with you. So I want to just point out some of the underwriting information that cyber insurance companies are asking for now. I grabbed this application online, and it is not the complete application. I just wanted to point out some of these questions. If you've had to do this recently, definitely need the help of your IT support people to answer a lot of these. So are you taking credit cards, for example? Or if so, are you PCI compliant or following PCI standards? When was your last PCI assessment? Are you storing medical information? Are you storing social security numbers and HR information? How many records are you storing? I mean, it goes from 500,000 to 1 million plus. Is your data encrypted while at rest? I put a box around this one. Do you have a chief privacy officer or someone that's responsible for monitoring all these things? Do you have a publicly available privacy policy, like on your website, that has been reviewed by an attorney? Or do you have procedure for storing sensitive data retention? If you look at letter E there, this is one I've mentioned already. Are you employees or staff doing cybersecurity training? They say in a few pages before this that this all has to be demonstrated. So you have to be able to show them that you're doing these things. You can't just check the box. They need proof on all of this. So moving down, Chief Information Security Officer, or in some cases CIO, responsible for security practices, firewalls. Are you using MFA, multi-factor? Are you doing pen tests annually? I mean, it goes on and on. Are you outsourcing any of this? You're outsourcing your data backups, your IT infrastructure, your web hosting. You can tell it's a book. And then you get to the part, well, how much coverage do you want for all these things? Well, let's see, how much do I need on my limit for privacy and security, or privacy breach notification? And, in some cases, people that are a victim of a data breach have to pay for monitoring, identity theft monitoring for the victims for up to 3 years. Imagine if you had 50,000 records stolen times 3 years for identity theft for each one. That can get quite expensive. Paying the ransom itself. Anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot there to answer and to go through. Only 55% of organizations even have cyber insurance. In the past 3 years, the claims have increased by 100%. That means the events people are submitting a claim for. And then 200% has been the payout increase. Something you're looking for in a cyber insurance policy, it should help with prevention, for example, maybe some assessments, pre-breach, they would say. Assistance, anytime there's a breach, there's going to be a forensic investigation, so help cover that. Legal services. I met with an attorney recently, met him at an event, and he really just represents people that have had data breaches, and told me that within 72 hours of announcing a data breach, you'll have multiple class action lawsuits formulating. So an insurance policy can help pay for lawyers. Credit monitoring, I mentioned. Crisis management, the whole PR thing. Operations, so you want to have cyber policy that covers loss of income or loss of revenue because you're down, can't do business. The cost to put everything back together, which would be remediation, and then any liability costs that come along with having you be responsible for your client data that is now out there on the dark web for sale. So insurance, cyber insurance, give it a look if you're not currently on a plan. And if you are, I would recommend a review. If it's been some time since you set those liability limits, you probably definitely want to take some time to review those coverages. Okay, most important thing you can do to protect yourself is you can become the human firewall. Because really, you're the first line of defense. You're the one getting the emails, the phishing emails. You're the ones being attacked with all these social engineering tactics, the phone calls, the deep fakes, whatever these million ways they can try to trick you now. So you're the first line of defense. So you need to kind of move yourself into a security conscious state of being. Just look at everything with suspicion, if you want to think of it that way. And continuous training is a big part of this. The cybersecurity training that we roll out, for example, you just want to make sure you're getting training to keep up on the latest threats every day, because they do change almost daily. Okay, so we're nearing the end here. Some takeaways. Cybercrime is organized crime. I think we showed that. It does have an organizational structure. It is a big business, $9.5 trillion this year. AI is being used by both the bad guys and the good guys. Zero trust should be your new normal in terms of a cybersecurity approach. I hope we made the point today that cloud security is a shared responsibility. Don't feel like you've offloaded all your responsibility just because you're in the cloud. Cyber resilience is the combination of cybersecurity and business continuity. You need to think about, do I have plans for this? And again, I've got a webinar coming up later all about cyber resilience. Cyber insurance, if you don't have any, you should look at it. If you do have some, you should review it annually. And then you, as the human firewall, just exist in this state of awareness and continual education on cybercrime. We do have a cybersecurity self-assessment. Now, this is not a zero trust assessment. This is just some best practice things. If you'd like that, I'll put up my contact information. We can email you one. Want to let you know that we have a training program called the Cyber Hero Academy. Here's some of the things you'll learn, but we're happy to come out either in person and do like a lunch and learn, or even maybe virtually a Zoom meeting. So any business organization that would like a cyber training, reach out to me and let me know, and we'll see what we can put together to come out and make cyber heroes out of all of you guys. And finally, there's my contact information, rafe@comtechnc.com. I hope this was helpful. I know it was not the typical cybersecurity webinar. Hopefully you learned something and got some new things to think about as you think about security and business continuity especially. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.